this is the piece that will change your opinion of classical music if you were not a fan. If you're not convinced at that point, it will leave you, oh my God, you can't feel otherwise. Holiday Season was always, my best memories from childhood. I was always drawn to the magic of 100 people getting together.
You're releasing a 3-song EP called Sugarplum Fantasy on Extraordinary Records. Tell me a little bit about this project. Tell me a little bit about these pieces, what they mean to you, why you picked them, and a little bit of the history.
The uniqueness of that piece is not only that these pieces are quite rarely performed in that form. And it's so funny because it's one of the most popular, it's like a pop music of classical music, right? But in this certain arrangement, it's not as often, you cannot hear it as often. So it is special, but it is more special in my personal life and experience because I was almost always the biggest fan of symphonic music. I was always a pianist, but if you ask what classical music you listened to as a child, it was always the ballet music or opera music or symphonies. I was always drawn to the magic of 100 people getting together. Harmony, balance, collaboration, that the symphony is the magic of classical music to me. So then you go to struggle whenever you want, when you find your favorite pieces, and for me it was always the Nutcracker. Not only because whenever you get to the holiday season, this music is always the first thing that comes to mind, right? You arrange your Christmas tree, this is literally, you hear it in your head. It cannot be just me, right? And you wrap the presents, you open the presents, you're outside, you see the snow, not here, but but yeah, you see the snow, and it's just like, immediately you hear that magic. All the holiday commercials, there's a reason there's Nutcracker in the background. This is how your heart immediately, reflects with holiday season. And because holiday season was always, my best memories from childhood, this piece was always my favorite. But the dilemma was like, how do you really integrate this piece in your life, in your professional life, when you're a soloist, and you can't really play this music. So this is when I found out. I remember I was 16 years old when I found out about this arrangement that Mikhail Pletnyov made. And Mikhail Pletnyov is one of the best, concert pianists in the world, in the history. And I don't think there'll be a single pianist who will say, what are you talking about? They will say, yeah, they will say, yes, he is. So he wrote that arrangement and he played it, he performed it. And then there were people who were asking him, like, why is it so difficult? He always responded with, I did not write it for people to play, so give me a break, wrote it for myself. For those of you who don't know, the Nutcracker orchestration is ridiculous. The amount of people in the orchestra is ridiculous. It's just like, it's one of the biggest orchestra settings you can imagine. The amount of instruments. He actually brought in an instrument. It was the first time in the history that celeste was brought into the orchestra. From then on, celeste was a part of the symphony orchestras around the world. But that was the first time that Tchaikovsky brought celeste into a Russian orchestra, and it was magic. The Sugarplum Fairy, the original sound of it, this little bell-like magic sound, comes from celeste. And he hid it in the stories. He hid the celeste in the orchestra. Nobody knew when the ballet was premiering. And when the little Sugarplum Fairy went on stage and the numbers started, the entire audience went gasping because that sound was never heard before. Getting to the EP, the 3 pieces from the Nutcracker. I played the whole suite, which is the 7 pieces, but the 3 pieces from Nutcracker went into my life at that age of 16. And you know how immediately you fall in love? You have love of your life, right? As a person, but you have a love of your life in your professional life. These 3 Nutcracker pieces became my soulmate, my twin flame, if you're in a, the kind of stuff, and my love of my life as, the classical piece I always perform from the moment I learned it. This is one of the numbers that I always include in my concerts, always include wherever I go. I always perform it in competitions starting from that age always successfully. It was always, brought a lot of recognition. Those three pieces are so incredibly challenging. They are so incredibly challenging technically, musically, because yes, you get a 100-piece orchestra, wrapped up on the 88 keys, but the thing is, can you really magically reproduce that sound, orchestral sound on the piano? So it's not only the technical skill you have to have, not only the musical skill you have to have this ability through your imagination, through your musical skill, produce and project a sound that somehow people will say, does that really comes from piano? Because is it not cellist playing at the moment? How is that the piano? So I always strive for that sound. And I wanted for people who listen to my recording to really feel like, does that really come from piano? Is that really just one pianist playing, So, and I think this piece is one of those that can actually make that happen, that feeling, that question raised, like, how is that even possible? I am so happy right now to be able to release these three pieces that are so deeply and especially part of my life and my professional life, my personal life, for all of you, and just for you to hear. First of all, absolutely amazing masterpiece of the music. Second of all, something that I am so personally involved with and so excited to share with you as my audience. And third, I think it's just amazing, fun three pieces to listen to wherever you are. Either you're decorating your Christmas tree, or driving in your car during non-holiday season, and just if you are one of those people who generally enjoys classical music, because this is a great, fantastic example of the pieces that are good for any occasion, any situation, no matter what state of mind you are. Three favorite pieces of mine are March, because this is kind of, in a ballet setting, this is a moment when a Christmas tree is first revealed. This is a moment in the ballet when the curtain raises up and we see this enormous, extravagant Christmas tree, and children starting assembling around it, the magic of the holidays in Christmas starting from this piece. When children starting jumping around and guests are starting to assemble around the biggest Christmas tree you can imagine on stage, right? So that's the reason why this piece is so perfect for starting the cycle with. And man, is it hard to play. Man, is it hard to play. Sometimes you don't understand how can you play so many things at the same time. So I like challenging myself technically on the piano, and that is a big of a challenge, Second piece is my personal favorite one. I think everyone's favorite one. I don't think that there's not a person in the world, even a child in the world, who wouldn't know it, and that's of course the Sugarplum Fairy Dance. And that is hands down #1 holiday music association for everybody, And because of the magic of it, because of the magic of the original cellist sound, and my challenge of trying to reproduce that sound of the piano, it is my personal favorite. It's the cutest, sweetest, short piece that will have you like, oh, I know this music, oh, I know this one, it just gets you so excited. And hopefully I was able to create that magical sound for you to enjoy and listen to whenever you feel like. And it will lift your spirits. It cannot, because when there's magic, how can it not, And finally, the third piece is Andante Maestoso, which is not the original name of it. In a ballet, it's the pas de deux, which is, the dance for two,
Which is my favorite part of those three songs. Yes.
Well, yes. I think if we talk about leaving an impression, leaving an emotional impression on the audience, that would be the piece. If you're a musician, you know what I'm talking about, because what Tchaikovsky did, he took a simple scale, I'm not even kidding you, he took a major scale, descending major scale, that's it. How can you build the most beautiful melody, and when you strip it off the harmony, you play ba 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 ba. That's the melody. Now explain to me, how can you create the most beautiful thing in the world out of the most basic thing? There's nothing more basic than a major scale. Name it, there's none. So the way the piece builds up, it's a build-up. The way it climaxes at the moment when you can't breathe, that's how powerful it is. This is the piece that will change your opinion of classical music if you were not a fan. If you're not convinced at that point, it will leave you, oh my God, you can't feel otherwise.